Lesson 1-6, solving compound and absolute value inequalities. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to solve compound inequalities, solve absolute value inequalities, and write answers in interval notation. So to start with, we're going to work on interval notation. Now this is just another way to write the solution of an inequality. So to do this, we're going to be using parentheses and brackets, or a combination of the two. So to show an endpoint of our solution is not included in the set, we use parentheses. So depending on what side it's on, we would either use both of these or just one. So parentheses are also always going to go with positive infinity, because that's not a concrete number, it's an idea. Same thing with negative infinity. So if that's part of your answer, then we would use a parenthesis on the side of it. So to show an endpoint is included in the set, we're going to use brackets. So again, we could use both of these or just one. So now we're going to practice. So I'm going to draw a number line, just to kind of give us a little bit better idea of when to use positive and negative infinity. So start with, you have our number line. So we would have positive infinity on this side, negative infinity on this side. So to get negative infinity, we would use the less than symbol, or we could also have less than or equal to. And then our positive infinity is going to be the greater than symbol. So either greater than, or we could see greater than and equal to. Okay, so this would be like our middle, so if we want to put 0 there. So it says write x less than 2 in interval notation. So again, if we're thinking about it in terms of a number line, so here would be our 2, and then we would shade towards the negative numbers. So that means that we're going to have negative infinity as part of our solution for interval notation. So we always write the smallest number first. So in this case, it's going to be negative infinity. Now, since negative infinity is an idea, it's not a concrete number, we have to have a parenthesis by it. So we're going to make a parenthesis, and then put a comma. And then the biggest number that we can get in this is 2. However, 2 is not included as part of our answer. So that means that we're also going to have a parenthesis on this side. Okay? So this interval notation means the same thing as this inequality. So those mean the same thing. All right, so if you go to the next one, this one says write x less than or equal to 2 in interval notation. So again, if we're thinking of a number line, we would have 2 here, and then we're going to shade to the left, so towards negative infinity. So that's going to be the smallest number. So again, we're going to use a parenthesis because infinity is an idea, not a concrete number. And then the biggest number we can ever have is 2. And since we're using the equal to symbol, that means that we're going to have a bracket this time. So the bracket tells us that 2 is included in our solution set. A parenthesis tells us that it's not. Okay, so same thing with the other one, so x greater than 2. So that means if we have 2 here, we're going to shade to the right, so towards positive infinity. So this time, 2 is going to be the smallest number in our set. So I'm going to write 2. And since there's not a bar underneath this one, we can't have 2 as part of our answer. So we're going to have a parenthesis. And then since we're shading to the right, we're using positive infinity this time, so that's the largest number that we can have. And again, infinity is an idea, it's not a concrete number, so we have to have a parenthesis on this. And the next one, so x greater than or equal to 2 in interval notation. So again, since it's greater than, we're shading towards positive infinity. So we always start with the smallest number. So in this case, it will be 2. And because there's a bar underneath, that means that we do include it. So if we include it, we use a bracket. And then comma, and we're going all the way up to positive infinity. So since it's infinity, we're going to use a parenthesis. And I'm going to add one more example, because here we have examples of when to use 2 parentheses, and then the rest is another 2 parentheses, and then 1 of each. So the case where we would use a bracket, so I'm going to add one to the bottom here. So let's write -3 less than x less than 5 in interval notation. Okay, so we're in between two things. So when we're looking at this, -3 is going to be our smallest number. So I'm going to make these equal to. Okay, so they're both equal to, so that means that they're both included. So since they're included, I'm going to use a bracket. And then this would be -3, comma. And then we're only going to 5. So I'm going to put 5 here. And then since 5 is also included, we're going to have a double bracket. So each of these interval notation answers mean the same thing as the inequalities that are over here. Because we have to make sure that we know what each represents.